I've actually been a fan my entire life. It's a crazy story, and I know it's almost unbelievable, but my grandparents actually met at what today we would call an indie show. So, like I always say, it's in my blood. Like it literally is in my blood because my grandparents, without them meeting at a wrestling show, my dad wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be here. So I've literally been a fan my entire life. It's not just something, at 15 years old or 20 years old, I turned on the TV and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, I've loved it my entire life. My first event, my parents took me to, I was like a year and a half old. So, there's photos of me as a little kid, like holding a Hulk Hogan action figure or, holding the belt. So, literally my entire life, I've absolutely loved it.
So would you say that professional wrestling has changed your life?
Professional wrestling has definitely changed my life. As we said, I've met so many friends. It's changed my life in that way. There's so many people in my life now that would not be a part of my life if it wasn't for wrestling. And it's also changed my life in that growing up, everyone else had Superman or Spider-Man as their hero. I had Hulk Hogan. So, and I always think that, like in my neighborhood growing up, I was always the youngest, and some of the older kids started getting into things that I just wasn't interested in because I had to get home and watch Raw, or I had to, get home and do something with wrestling. And I always thought that kind of kept me on a straight and narrow path all my life.
Are your friends and family supportive, or have you been an avid wrestling fan
For the most part, everyone's pretty supportive. I think it used to be one of those things where it was like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? But I think the more and more experiences I have with it, and they've kind of seen over the years, like, wow, like, this is something that he absolutely loves. He's not going to stop for anyone. Like, let him go have his fun. He's not, he's not hurting anyone. And even nowadays, like, I'll meet someone and I'm almost, like, my heart starts pounding a little bit, trying to tell them, okay, yeah, like, I go to almost every pay-per-view. Like, it's something that you don't know how someone's going to react to it. But honestly, I've not really come across anyone that has said anything negative. Usually it's, oh wow, that's really cool that you are that passionate about something that you want to go do that all the time and be a part of that.
You said you've been a lifelong wrestling fan. Mm-hmm. How has being a fan changed from like the attitude era to the reality era?
I think wrestling has changed a lot, and I've always said this. I think one of the ways it has changed is the internet. And I almost think the internet has ruined pro wrestling a little bit, in the fact that, when I was growing up and I was little, I didn't get online to see who was going to show up at the show that night. And now it's just everyone knows everything, and I think it ruins it a little bit in the way that we can get on and see what's about to happen, and, well, no one likes it, so they're going to moan and complain, so that's going to force the company to go in a different direction, or no one's able to just sit back and watch anymore. It's like, we got to do this and do that and see what's going on and kind of try to shift things. So it could be better or it could be worse, we don't know, but the company's not really given that option anymore, I don't feel like. I feel like it's ruined it a little bit.
Do you feel like social media has helped like you out to like gain some fans?
Oh, absolutely. Social media I think it has helped that way. I mean, like I said, back in the day, you were able to get online and tweet Hulk Hogan and hope that Hulk Hogan maybe responded or retweeted you. That just wasn't a possibility. If you didn't go to the show or you didn't have the opportunity to meet them, you would never get that interaction. And nowadays, fans every single day are interacting with, their heroes, as I said, and possibly, getting a response. And I think that part of social media is absolutely awesome.
Describe what it's like from a fan standpoint to go to a live professional wrestling.
As a fan standpoint, if you are a fan of pro wrestling, there's nothing else like it. Like, it's cool to watch on TV, but I've always said, once you go, and if you're close enough to feel like you're able to interact with them and be a part of the show in that way, there's nothing like it in the world, and you will become addicted, as I have, of course.
Do you still get the same feelings from that, like the first time you went to a live event to the current event?
It's definitely different. It's definitely not quite the same. I've been to so many now, like I walk in, I still get the little jitteries, like, okay, like, I'm at Raw, this is exciting. But, as a little kid, going to, you're the first show, or even my first WrestleMania 20, like walking in and just being like, oh my, this is what I dreamed of as a kid, was going to a show. And I still, especially at WrestleMania, that's why I wrote up a blog a couple weeks ago talking about WrestleMania and like walking in there, among 70,000 people and like just looking around and taking it all in, like this was my dream as a kid, and now here I am, and sitting so close and getting those interactions with the wrestlers, and it's absolutely incredible. Like I never dreamed as a kid that this is something that I would be able to do.
Now we'll have it just for the documentary person. Tell the camera what the nickname is that you have, what the fans know you as, and tell us how you came up with the idea to wear the blazer and the white jacket.
Okay. I started out going by WWE's biggest fan because wholeheartedly I do believe that. Like I said, it's been a part of my entire life. The blazer started, I would see people get noticed on TV, and I was going to so many shows all the time, and I never stood out. There was nothing ever really that made me stand out. I just kind of blended in. I'm like, well, if I'm going to so many shows, I need to come up with something that's going to make me stick out a little bit. So I just came up with the blazer and was like, oh, we'll throw some stuff on it, and now this is like the fourth jacket. So that's how it started.
Are you going to be a lifelong wrestling fan?
I will definitely be a lifelong wrestling fan. I always say, there's something I don't like, or oh, I'm done. I'm not going to it. I'm done with shows. I'm not going anymore. Then start getting online and buying, airline tickets for the following month's pay-per-view or whatever. But of course we all get upset. But at the end of the day, I've been a fan for 28 years, and there's nothing in the world that's going to change that.
How many shows do you go to in a year's time?
As Mike said earlier, I'd say 30-ish. It just depends. It really depends on the year. I did the pay-per-view streak, so that consumed a lot of time and effort. Usually do the pay-per-view and then Raw the following night. SmackDowns are a little harder based on my work schedule and all that, trying to plan everything out. But if it's within 3 or 4 hours or drivable, I'll usually hit it up, and then the pay-per-views.
And a couple more questions
Sure.
I have for you. I asked the same thing. What is your definition of a wrestling mark?
A mark. I think mark and I think fan. I think that a lot of people hear the word mark and they use it in a negative way. Oh, you're a mark. You're just a wrestling mark. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's accurate. I think mark is just a fan, because I don't know that a lot of the wrestlers might consider themselves marks, but they are. And I know there are some that would say, yeah, I'm a mark too. Like that. I think we're all marks in the way that most wrestlers loved it as a kid, or they wanted to be a wrestler. They're a mark. They were a mark for the business, and that's why they got into the business.
And what's your definition of a smart?
A smart mark. So someone that gets online, reads everything every day, thinks they know the business.
And out of the two, which do you consider yourself?
I feel like I ride a fine line down the middle, in that I do read things, you know what I'm saying, but I don't think that I know any more about the business than the people in charge. I think that's silly to say, because that's why I'm on this side of the barricade, and that's why they're on the other side of the barricade. So I'd go with mark. I'm okay with the word mark.
Okay. And is there anything you want to add about being a professional wrestler?
Just that I love it with all my heart, and I think anyone out there that isn't a pro wrestling fan should give it a chance. I've always said, if you're not a wrestling fan, I have the ability to make you a wrestling fan. Watch it with me for a couple weeks. Let me take you to an event. No matter who you are, I can make you a wrestling fan.